We'll go to Chris Adamski with the Trib. Chris, go ahead.
Hey, Steven. How's it going?
Going good. How are you?
I'm not too bad, all things considered. Good to talk to you. Just defensively, obviously, you guys had a good season last year. We got everybody with Minkah there all year. Where do you kind of see – do you have goals to be a number one defense? Is there like explicit – do you talk about that? Is that the way you kind of set goals, is to be a ranking or anything like that? How do you approach your season that way?
Right, definitely. We collectively, we all want to be a step better from last year. I think the great thing that we have on our side is that most of our guys are back this year, give us 2 years to play with each other, like you said, Minkah. And we just want to improve from last year. And, I think last year we did a great job, but it's always room for improvement. And we're all on the same page with that.
Move on to Brooke Pryor, ESPN. Brooke, go ahead.
Hey, Steve. I know that corners aren't a position like the line where you're necessarily in somebody's face every play or something like that, but I was curious for you personally, what was the decision like to decide to opt in this year with COVID going on and everything? And do you have any concerns about playing just given the way everything's going so far?
Right. My personal decision was, I just love the game so much. And, that's not to knock anybody else that did opt out. People do have like very serious, concerns within their families. I just been, fortunate enough to not have, those type of issues. And, I think it's a blessing to be able to, opt in this year with everything going on. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Alrighty, let's move on to Ed Bouchette with The Athletic. Ed, are you on?
Hi, Steven. Yes, I am, Michael. Thank you for doing this. What was last year your best season? And assess your overall secondary for me.
Right. I think it's funny. So I think it was 2018. I had 4 interceptions, but I gave up a lot. So statistically, you would say 2018 was my best season, but last year, I didn't give up a touchdown. And there was a lot of other like small details in the stat line that would probably make a good argument. But, the secondary overall, like we just have good guys from top to bottom. Starters and non-starters, guys who come in and play. Like we have Minkah, back there. You saw what he did last year. We still got Joe, who, is still balling at a very high level. Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton, those guys are very skilled at what they do on the inside. And Terrell Edmonds can give you a versatile look as well. So, we just got a lot of guys that, can get out there and make plays.
Thanks, Ed. Let's move on to Jerry Dulac with the Pulse Gazette. Jerry, go ahead.
Steve, good morning. You mentioned wanting to improve on defense or go to that next level. Is there one aspect of the defense that needs to improve to get to that next level? And as a kind of a follow-up, was there a time last season when you first noticed that teams stopped trying you, stopped throwing in your direction?
Right. So, the first question, I think, one thing we can always improve on is communication. We lacked that a little bit last year, even though, we had great numbers and, we were able to, have a successful defense in some people's eyes. But like I said, we can always improve in communication. I feel like is very key to being a great defense overall. And, I did kind of notice that probably like in the middle of the year, wasn't getting as many targets. If I did get a target, it was just, I felt like it was an opportunity for me to get the ball. So this year, I hope that changes.
Thanks, Steve.
Let's move on to Jeff Hathorn with 93.7 The Fan. Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, Steven, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, obviously, we're used to being able to being at camp and watch the energy and see how you guys are getting along. What's it like right now from an energy, camaraderie? How are you guys dealing with that part of it?
Oh, it's very guys are glad to be back. You know, guys have missed being around each other. You know, we didn't have the OTAs period, so the energy is definitely there. The one thing about Pittsburgh is like a brotherhood, man, and so we've always kept in contact throughout the off season. So it's like we're just meeting back up.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll move on to Mike Prizzuta, DVE. Mike, go ahead.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, it looked like teams started staying away from Fitzpatrick as last year progressed as well. What did you attribute that spate of turnovers he came up with? And what do you guys have to do as a defense to try to get him around the ball more this year?
You said what? Say that again, the first question.
The first 5, 6, 7 weeks, Fitzpatrick was getting the ball every week. And then teams went away from him. How do you get back to getting him more around the football?
Right. I think that's a question for the coaches, man. But, you know, Minkah is a very smart player, very intuitive when he's on the field. He works hard. So I think he's going to work his tail off to, you know, be around the ball regardless, you know.
Gotcha.
All right, let's move on to Andrew Stockey, WTAE. Andrew, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mentioned the fact that if the offense puts up some points, it makes your job somewhat easier when you're playing with a lead. But how important is it for you and this defensive group to go out there and set the tempo each game, not worry about what the offense is doing, but go out there, be dominant, and set the tempo and, you know, maybe even put points on the board?
Right. That's our whole motto. We to clear that up, we don't look for the offense to score points. We go out there every day and we feel like we're going to score points. You know, we want to get in the end zone and get turnovers. You know, that's our mindset. You know, we don't try to piggyback off anybody, if that makes sense.
Stephen, thank you.
All right, we'll go to Jenna Harner with WPXI. Jenna, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen, thanks so much for taking some time here. A lot of the athletes we've kind of talked to over the last couple weeks or so have kind of said that getting back on the field really does kind of give them that sense of normalcy with everything that's going on right now. For you guys, how much of, I guess, mental kind of escape is that, knowing that you're kind of getting into some sort of routine when everything's been so disrupted around you guys?
Right, and it's been great, you know, like just being at home and being quarantined, you know how that can get. And guys were getting very anxious, you know, with everything we were going through leading up until the report date. So I think when guys got in the building, it is a sense of like relief. You know, it's therapeutic. You know, once you get to get in your routine and you just have something to look forward to. Like, oh wow, like we're actually doing this. You know, we can do this. You know, and I think so far, like the NFL has been doing a great job with taking care of guys.
Thanks, Jenna. We'll move on to Noah Strackbeam with Sports Illustrated. Noah, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen. Thanks for doing this. Going back to you being underrated, you know, obviously you feel you are. You've been talking about that on social media all offseason. How do you feel you, Joe, and Mike as a trio are underrated? I mean, last year Joe was the only one to make a Pro Bowl, and that was as a reserve.
Yeah, I mean, we all feel that way. We all feel like underdogs. I just think that gives us the extra chip on our shoulder. We're not the type of guys to be satisfied with, you know, the previous season. So we've been all working hard to try to get you know, recognition. And like I say, like we work hard. We're all making a great statement for our team.
Thank you.
Thanks, Noah. Let's go to Hugh Ringer with 96.7 Sports. Hugh, are you on?
Stephen, you're not the biggest cornerback in the National Football League, certainly. Some teams have tried to pick on you at times, rather unsuccessfully. But how do you overcome, in a way, your lack of size and physicality, perhaps? Extra film study? What kinds of things do you do?
I don't think I'm that small. I'm like 5'11". 190. I think I'm average size for a corner. I don't know why people keep saying that, but yeah, there are a lot of big receivers out there. And, when you have a 6'5" guy against a 5'11" cornerback, you're going to try to, feed that guy the ball. But, just having experience, to answer your question, I have a lot of experience in film study. I do feel like I'm quicker than a lot of bigger guys, so I can pretty much beat them to the spot. And with film study, that gives me an edge on that.
Brian Backo of the Post-Gazette. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Teryl? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. How you doing?
Good. I think when we talked to you after the draft, specifically when you guys took Antoine Brooks in the 6th round, you said we'll just have to kind of get all those guys, those versatile players in your secondary, shake them up and see where they fit best. After having them in the classroom all off season and now getting a little bit of interaction with him and some of the other newer guys, I mean, do you have a better feel for responsibilities or assignments or how some of your safeties can be used the best?
Not quite yet, because we haven't seen them move around, but I think learning-wise, I think you have an idea that they can learn. And so that's a good thing. And I think once we get going, because of the unusual off-season that we've had, I don't think we're going to be double teaching a lot of new guys and doing some different things. So we'll probably just kind of keep our guys strapped into one position and let them learn. The veteran guys may get some more, but the newer guys, he'll probably just get strapped into probably a safety type position and go from there.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to Tim Benz with the Trib. Tim?
I'm wondering about actually two guys, Teryl, if that's okay. The first of which is Cam Sutton. Do you see him on a larger role this year? And if so, where exactly? And when it comes to Edmonds, what can you do to maybe get him around the football more often?
The first one with Cam Sutton, I think, Cam will have an expanded role, I would think, in terms of, he still plays some nickel for us. He plays some dime for us. He plays plays corner for us. He's played some safety for us. So he's got a lot of versatility, super smart guy. So I think we'll just carve out his role as it goes during the season. And we try to get him in there as many times as we can, because he is a really good pass defender and he has a great feel for the pass game. As far as carving out a separate type of role, no, I don't think so. I just think we just try to give him a little bit more of what we did last year in some of those instances. For T. Edmonds, I think he knows that, and we know that he's a good football player. We just got to get him a little bit more ball production, and so we'll spend our, as we get going here in terms of catching the ball, getting around the ball, stripping the ball, fumble recoveries, all those things, and we'll just continue to practice them. I'm sure they'll come. Because the kid works hard, he's around the ball, he's always available, he's out there every snap, and those things will come. So the biggest thing we got to do is just continue to work on it, and when he gets near the ball, to make sure he has that production that we need, because that's really the only thing that was lacking out of his game last year, was the fact that you didn't see very much ball production. But other than that, the guy is always around the ball. He's a good player, he's a good leader, he's a great teammate.
Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, Tim. Let's move on to Jeff Hathorn with 93.7 The Fan. Jeff?
Hey, Teryl. Appreciate you doing this.
Oh, no problem.
I'm just wondering, for the depth that you have, how do you feel overall about the depth in the secondary, and how do you try to get them reps without preseason games? How do you try to make up for that lost experience?
Well, I think we do have an experienced group, and the nice thing is I think some of our veteran guys, when you've played a lot of snaps, sometimes you don't need as much warm up, and so we'll get them what they need to be ready, and then I think that gives us an opportunity to have some extra reps for some of the younger guys that we're trying to train and trying to give them some looks. So I think there's going to be enough reps in there. Is it ideal? No, but that's kind of where we are right now. And we're going to make the best of it, and I think our guys will make the best of it. But that's really what we're doing. I think, Joe Haden doesn't need 500 preseason snaps. Steve Nelson doesn't need that. Minkah and TE don't need all those snaps. Those guys have played a lot of snaps in the last couple of years. And so we just have to make sure we get those guys ready. So when we step out on the field in game one, that group is ready. But also spending some of this camp to being able to develop and identify which of our young guys will be backups and which, to provide depth for us.
Thanks, Jeff. We move on to Mike Brazuta with DVE. Mike, go ahead.
Hello, Teryl. How you doing?
Hey, Mike.
With Fitzpatrick, he had so many turnovers right away, and then he didn't get very many at the end. To what extent did you see teams avoid him? And are you guys trying to scheme up ways to get him around the ball more in response to that?
Well, yeah, I think he's a phenomenal football player. Checks all the boxes. Made a lot of, actually, like you said, a lot of turnovers early, and then teams tried to stay away from him. And I think that's just a testament to when you're a good player, a lot of times you don't get all that action. And so I think what we'll do is we'll maybe be able to move him around a little bit more, because getting him week 3 like we did last year is a little bit, you're just trying to throw him in and just trying to make sure that we get lined up and all that other stuff. But I think this offseason has been helpful for us and for him and for the group because we've been able to talk some things out and really get down into the details of our defense. And I think that'll give him a little bit more ability to maybe show up in a couple of different positions than he was last year, which will help him get around the ball a little bit more and
Thanks.
keep that production.
Thank you.
All righty, let's go to Dale Lally with DK Pittsburgh Sports. Dale, are you on?
I'm on. Hey, Teryl, when you look at last year, I added it up. You guys had more than a touchdown lead last year, just over 100 minutes of gameplay last year with more than a 2-touchdown lead, but you were, or more than a 1-touchdown lead, but you were still able to get so many turnovers. Can it be even better if your offense provides you with more, a little more firepower there that you guys can actually get after the ball a little bit in terms of the guys up front, and maybe the opposing teams have to throw the ball more at you guys?
Yeah, I think that's always when you're playing with the lead and you know that teams are one-dimensional, then your ability to get turnovers, I think, increases. And so if that happens, that'll be great. If it doesn't, then it's our job to get the ball back in these tight games, and we're going to try to get after that ball no matter what. So I think our guys are determined to make sure that we play better than we did last year and get more turnovers and be more impactful on the games than we were last year. And that's really our charge. But yes, to answer your question, if you are playing with the lead and they are one-dimensional, your opportunity for turnovers goes up.
Let's go to Ed Bouchette with The Athletic. Ed, go ahead.
Hey, Teryl. How does this secondary compare to the ones you had in Baltimore, acknowledging you had a Hall of Famer down there?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of similarities, and not to get into player by player, but I think there's similarities in terms of how our guys communicate. I think the one thing that's very similar is I think both of those secondaries, they're really good problem solvers. So you don't see a lot of the same mistakes happen twice. They're able to fix things during the course of a game. And I think that's one of the those are something that's really, really good to have as a coach, because then you're not sitting there trying to fix everything. Those guys, they know when they made a mistake. They know what they did wrong. They know how to fix it. They know when something's good and working and when to use it. And so I think those are two real good similarities that between the two secondaries that I've had, that I see. Excuse me.
Let's go to Brooke Pryor with ESPN. Brooke.
Hey, TA, you mentioned that having veterans, they don't necessarily need all of the normal preseason snaps that they would get because they have the experience. How much does it help to have those veteran guys to teach some of the younger ones in this case when they've had an abbreviated off season and you maybe can't get in front of them as much as you would like to? How much are you kind of relying on some of these, extra workouts that they've done in the off season away from everybody, or them just talking amongst themselves to teach each other?
It's invaluable. I think that good veteran leadership, you can't have enough of that in your room. And I think we have that. with, Joe's a veteran, Steve's a veteran, and then, Minkah and TE are younger guys, but they've played a lot of snaps. So they actually, they give back to the guys in there so that we're all on the same page. And I really think that's something that the veterans do. And when you have an unselfish group of veterans, they're really going to pull the young guys along because they know in the long run, we're only going to be as good as all of the guys in the room. So they want these young guys to reach their potential. They're not trying to not give them information and let them learn it on their own. They want them to be really good. And they want them to be so good that they're pushing the vets because they know that gives us a chance to be the best team. And our guys have done a great job of that.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Mark Caboli with The Athletic. Mark?
What's up, Teryl? In your experience as a defensive coordinator, how much did you welcome position coaches' input on game plans? And conversely, as a position coach, was it sometimes hard to chime in with ideas in terms of game planning?
No, when I was a coordinator, I wanted input. You want to have input, especially from your position coaches in the game plan and what we're going to do and what their position needed. Because as a coordinator, sometimes I'm looking at the big picture and maybe I didn't see everything that a certain position group needed. And it was up to the coach to make sure they brought the ideas, they brought what those guys needed to me. And welcome that because you need to be able to put that together because, you don't want to put something out on the field and the position coach never told you that, hey, our guys aren't real comfortable with that. They didn't like that. So you got to have that input. And here, there's no problem. We all have input in what we do because Mike, and I'm sure you've heard Mike, he doesn't care where a good idea comes from. And so that allows us to make sure that, and that's really just the indicator to let us know that, hey, listen, he wants our input because it's important to what we do. It's a group effort to get the best out of all of our guys. And so I don't ever think that was ever an issue when I was a coordinator or being here as an assistant.
All right, let's move on to Rich Walsh with KDKA. Rich, are you on?
Yeah. Hey, Teryl, we just talked to Steve, and he said he felt maybe a little underrated at times. What does he do, and what kind of impact does he make on this defense, maybe in the secondary to allow you to maybe do more, be more aggressive?
Yeah, Steve is a good player. He is, he likes to be underrated because that gives him that little chip he needs. I like that. But Steve is a good player. What he does is what you're going to get from Steve, you're getting at every game. He is a tremendous worker, tremendous pro. So when you have a guy like that, you don't worry about what you're putting in and how you're putting in or how you're putting it in or what you're going to do because he's going to execute that at a fairly high level. And I think that's the one thing that he does. He plays, and his level of play does not fluctuate very much week to week. And when I say that, that's in a good way because his play, he's got a high level of play, which you feel confident and comfortable with what's going on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll move on to Jim Wexel with 247 Sports. Jim?
Okay, Teryl. You want to get Minkah around the ball more, and that's completely understandable. But what else have you got for a center fielder? I mean, you kind of need that yin and yang, don't you?
You do, and I like to have that, but it doesn't mean you can't switch it up and do different things at times. I mean, that just can't be our main mode of operation is not going to be Minkah down around the box and Terrell Edmonds in the middle of the field because that's not a good plan for us. But I think you can pick and choose your spots to move people around and get them into different spots to facilitate maybe getting Minkah around the ball or putting them in some spots that the offense isn't used to.
All right, we'll move on to Jenna Harner with WPXI. Jenna, are you on?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. Teryl, we kind of were getting a lot of talk from the guys just about how much of a mental escape this being back on the field kind of provides. What have you kind of seen from them in terms of their energy and their demeanor as they've kind of, been here for a couple weeks now?
You can tell they haven't been around football because they're chomping at the bit. It's been good. Our meetings have been great, very, very engaged because it's not like the long haul. They know everything's got to be done here in a short period of time, and our guys are engaged. Our meetings are fresh. The guys are asking lots of questions when we get out on the field. The chatter's good. It's not a lot of distractions, and the energy's been really good, really nice. And I know I feel the same way. It's great to be back around the guys and be in that room with them, and I'm sure they feel that way too. It's good to be around all their friends, their teammates, and the entire team getting ready for something. And I think that's you can see that, and you can feel it.
All right, we'll wrap it up with Didi Kinkwabala of the NFL Network. Didi, are you on?
I am. There we go. Hi.
Hello.
You started by talking about the young guys and wanting to have them provide some depth and figure out who can be your backup. So what's the key in evaluating that when you don't have them under the lights and you're somewhat limited in what you can do with them physically? And then the second part of this, you gave a great answer about how these guys compare with Ed Reed and the Ravens secondary. What's fun about this group? You've been doing this since 1991. What about this group stands out?
God,
I'm
why
assuming
you
they're
dating me
fun.
like that? That's awful. All right, give me the first part of the question again. These young guys. I think what we're going to do is I think I got it here. The young guys, the thing we'll do with the young guys is you just got to put them in as many stressful situations in practice as possible and as many game-like situations as you can just to see how they react and kind of get an idea of what you're going to get. Obviously, the preseason games, you'll miss those things. But there's things that you can do that you can have a pretty good idea. Because I think even when you have preseason, a lot of times you'll see guys and they'll show things in practice. And when they get to the game, those same things shows up, good or bad. So I think we can manufacture that. We just don't have as much time as normal. What's fun about this group? This group is good because I think I have a couple young guys that think they're old in Minkah and TE. They think they're like 30, 35-year-old guys, and they're kind of, hey, I'm in there. And then I got older guys like Joe and Steve, and they're like rookies. They bouncing around in our room. So it's kind of neat to watch the personalities with the guys. But no, it's a really the really good group in terms of how the different mixtures of personalities and how they get along. And I think that's important because I think, we spend so much time together in here on the field that if you don't have those different personalities, you can't have all the same guys. If you don't have those different personalities and those different things working together, then it can be a grind to be in the room. And these guys, it's not at all. It's a very enjoyable group.